All right, welcome everyone to this session about undergraduate research at Duke. I People are coming into the webinar now. I'm going to give it another minute and then we will get started. Welcome to everyone. Thanks for being here. So I am Dr. Jessica Harrell. I am the director of the Trinity College of Arts and Sciences Undergraduate Research Support Office. And thank you for joining me tonight to hear a little bit more about what undergraduate research at Duke looks like. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of our office and our resources. And then I have a couple of students on the webinar with us that will tell you about their experiences. And then I'm happy to answer questions. I believe the best way for you to ask a question is to go ahead and put it into the chat. We have someone from undergraduate admissions who is monitoring that for us. I will go ahead and get started. So, as I mentioned, I am Jessica Harrell. I'm the director of our Undergraduate Research Support Office. I have a program coordinator. Her name is Sarah Coop. She is not with us this evening, but the two of us are our small but mighty team who run the day-to-day operations of our Undergraduate Research Support Office. We are joined tonight by two members of our T-Star ambassadors. So we have the Trinity student team for advancing research. These T-Star students help support undergraduate research at Duke by both providing feedback and insights to me as the director, providing suggestions about our programming, providing feedback about our resources, and they also act as ambassadors, so they are available to talk to incoming or first year students or second year students who are interested in getting involved in research and have questions. They also help us with managing our various events and workshops and symposium and things like that. And in a little bit, I am going to ask each of them to share their experiences with you all in being involved in research. So, I wanted to take a moment to just talk about what makes research at Duke special. And I think what sets us apart is that we have a commitment to the generation of knowledge. And that's what research is. Research is creating new information and new knowledge. And we have Duke faculty that are teaching undergraduates that are also making really important discoveries that are pushing forward the boundaries of research and scholarship. They're really on the frontier of knowledge and curiosity and helping us learn more about the world around us. Duke also values collaboration and interdisciplinary research. There are lots of students that are participating in research that is interdisciplinary and across disciplines. And our undergraduate students are participating in this groundbreaking research that really is pushing forward the frontiers of knowledge. So this is a copy of the brochure that we give to younger and newer students. Just gives an overview of what research is and some of the benefits of engaging in research. So if I can take a moment to point you to why should undergraduates engage in research? Isn't to check a box or to help you be admitted to your next endeavor after Duke, but really gives you the skills and opportunities to learn valuable things that are going to help you no matter what your next journey is after Duke. So you learn how to ask really meaningful questions and you're able to really connect what you learn in the classroom to the outside world. Students are really making meaningful connections with our faculty, and they're really able to gain a deeper understanding of their field by engaging in research. And I always encourage students to follow their curiosity and their research interests based on what it is that they are passionate about. So that may not always be in a lab environment, and it might not always be the STEM research that we might all consider to be what we think about when we think about research. But we really have students that are doing research across the breadth of our disciplines and making really meaningful contributions, not only in the natural and quantitative sciences, but also in the social sciences and the arts and humanities as well. We do have funding available to students in the form of various awards. I'm not going to get into the weeds of each of those, but we have funding available to support our students' engagement in research as well. I wanted to go over some common misconceptions that Duke students have about research that I often encounter. So, one I often hear from younger students is that when they arrive to Duke, they think if they don't have research experience that they're behind everyone else because everyone else seems to have research experience before coming to Duke. And that is not the case. While it might feel that way, reality is most incoming students do not have research experience yet, and it is not required in order for you to engage in it at Duke. A misconception I hear is that I need to come up with my own research project idea. And I think when we hear from the students, Anna and Caroline, in a few minutes, they'll be able to tell you more about their own research questions and how those came about and how they were really working with other members of the Duke community to investigate a particular topic. And so undergraduate students are not expected to come up with their own project ideas. Initially, students are typically serving as assistants on a faculty member's research project. And over time, students may gain some independence and start formulating their own questions that offshoot the research program's initial questions and goals. But that is definitely not the expectation nor the practice at the beginning. Another misconception that I often hear from students is I can or I want to do my own independent project myself. And to be honest, most undergraduates are doing Duke faculty mentored research. And I always describe it this way. Our graduate students and our postdocs are doing Duke faculty mentored research. And so it would be very unusual for an undergraduate student to get their own funding and do their own independent project without the guidance of a faculty mentor. And so my advice is that undergraduate students should identify a Duke faculty that has very similar research interests and begin working alongside them and learning from them, kind of like an apprenticeship, and be mentored by them on a research project. One of the ways that students can get credit for engaging in research is through course credit. But students can, if they are not enrolled in a course for course credit for doing their research, students can also utilize their work study award in order to be paid wages, hourly wages, for engaging in research as a research assistant. And most Duke students are, in fact, eligible for work study awards if they submit a FAFSA form. So, regardless of your family financial background and assets, most Duke students will be awarded Duke Work Study if they're not awarded federal work study. And this actually really helps out the mentor because then you have a source of funding that can help to provide your wages. That does not need to be paid from the faculty mentor's grant or discretionary funds. There, not to get into the weeds, but financially it doesn't cover 100% of the work study award, so someone has to cover a portion. And so part of my role as director of the URS office is to work with departments and faculty and students to help either provide that funding or find sources for that funding. Study is really key to being able to be paid wages for engaging in research. Misconception is that work study positions are only for menial tasks, not research. So, a misconception that you can only be paid for engaging in a research lab if you're doing the dishes and you're making media and you're autoclaving materials. And that's not the case. While that certainly can be a work study position, it is also a work study eligible position to be working as a research assistant and engaging in the research. That is an acceptable type of work study. And then another misconception is that I'm going to cure cancer. And while I think all of us certainly want to cure cancer, The reality is that research takes time and patience, and research is a lot of failure. And that's not something that our Duke students are used to. They're used to being very successful and feeling like if they work hard, then that equals success. And unfortunately, in the research world, working hard doesn't always lead to success. It often ends with research failures and failed experiments or failed hypotheses. And that's okay because there are always more questions to ask and more research to do as we aim to pursue more knowledge and we aim to pursue cancer. But we aren't going to cure cancer in a day. So I just thought it would be worth sort of going over some of those common misconceptions. But what are some of the undergraduate research resources and entry points at Duke? So, you may have heard about all of the different project orientation groups that you will get to choose from in order to spend your first orientation week here at Duke engaged in a particular area. There is a project orientation group called Project Research, and this is a week-long orientation group that does a deep dive into all of the different research resources on campus in all of the disciplines. So we will talk not only about the lab-based research that many students come in thinking is what research is, but we will also talk about all of the other kinds of research that are happening at Duke. A trip to the archives to see some of the archival material that students base some of their research projects on, a mock ethnographic study where we will develop research questions and interview folks about a particular topic. Also have some time to visit lab spaces as well. But we aim to try to expose students to a variety of research topics and research disciplines that are here at Duke. And so that is one way that you can learn more about research at Duke. We also, the URS office, Undergraduate Research Support Office, also offers workshops and info sessions throughout the school year. And I just have our infographic here from the month of March as an example. So our programming in the fall will focus on helping our first year students understand how to engage in research and the various opportunities there are to engage in research at Duke. And so I would definitely recommend that you look for us at the various tabling events that will be available to students and that will be advertised in particular to our first year students. We advertise about the various workshops that we do on our listserv and on our socials. And so I would definitely encourage students to explore and attend some of our workshops in order to learn more about engaging in research and how to be successful. We also host an annual undergraduate research symposium. We just had our research symposium last week. These are some photos of the day. We had a panel of Duke alumni that talked about how their undergraduate research has impacted their career path or how they see the skills that they built in undergraduate research really helping them navigate their career. Presented posters and gave talks. We had over 120 presenters at our research symposium. And so we were really excited about all of the energy and all of the people that were there to not only present their research, but all of the people that came to hear about the really exciting research happening at Duke. So it was a really great day. I wanted to give you a quick glimpse into a couple of students' research projects that are not here tonight, but give you an idea of some of the more interpretive social science and humanities research that happens at Duke, because Anna and Caroline will both talk a little bit more about their own research in natural and quantitative sciences. But I wanted to make sure you hear about something these other disciplines. So we have a graduating senior who is completing her senior thesis, who received a fellowship last summer to investigate how Ghanaian cinema engages with the theories of colonialism and contributes to the discourse and on power and identity. And so she spent several weeks in Ghana over the summer interviewing locals and attending film screenings and trying to understand how the cinema works. Films are contributing to a sense of identity in the Ghanaian culture and how the portrayals of the Ghanaian people in those films balance with their identity. So that was kind of an interesting project. And then Lillian Fan, also in the class of 2026, was awarded a fellowship last summer where she looked at the role of these Duke student-run spaces in sustaining the artistic diversity and evolving traditions of North Carolina's music community. So there are a couple of Duke-run, we have a radio station and a coffee house that are run by Duke students. And if you think about it, that means that there is constant turnover as students are typically here for only 4 years. And so our seniors graduate and new students come in. And so this particular student was looking at the archives of some of these, of the music station and the coffee house, and trying to understand from oral histories what the historical narrative of this space even was, and how that contributes to the existence of what we have today. And so hoping to really build an archival record of information that gives a historical perspective of where the radio station and coffee house have come from in order for the current students to be able to carry on. That was kind of an interesting project as well. But now I want to turn it over to our two students, Caroline McSwain and Anna Ding. If I can go ahead and have each of you, maybe we'll ask Anna to go first. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and telling us what you are majoring in and how you got involved in research and what you are researching.
Yeah, so my name is Anna, and I'm a sophomore here at Duke currently. I'm majoring in biology with minors in chemistry and history. I became involved in research my freshman year. I tried to get research through, we have a kind of like a application finder called Muser, where you can look for research opportunities and postings from people in labs, and I applied to that, and then I heard back from two of them. Eventually, that didn't work out, so I kind of took that as a sign to maybe stay away from research my freshman fall and kind of just enjoy and learn how to be a college student coming from high school. Winter break is when I decided to take a different approach, and I ended up cold emailing three PIs, principal investigators. I heard back from one of them, and I met with them in person. I really liked their lab environment and my mentor, and I guess they liked me too. Yeah, that's how I ended up in my current lab. And I'm in a lab in the medical school that's in the Department of Immunology. And specifically, we're studying idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis and the biological mechanism of a protein called osteopontin, how that works biologically in idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. I think you said something that is really worth pointing out, and that I emphasize to students, first year incoming students in that fall semester. And I mentioned this at the very beginning. You do not have to come into Duke with research experience, and most students do not have prior research experience. You also don't need to get involved in research in your very first semester. My advice to students is that you think about what is going to be best for you to make a successful transition to Duke. There are so many new things happening. You're suddenly living away from home. You're living in a dorm. You have a roommate. You're taking college level classes. You have a lot more independence than you previously have had. And the transition can be difficult. And so it's not necessary to jump into the deep end and get involved in research in your very first semester. It is okay to wait a semester or even a year before you get involved in research. You're not behind if you give yourself some time to do some exploration of all of the different opportunities, and there are so many opportunities for engagement in research at Duke. And I'm not going to go through all of the different kinds because it would take me forever. Know that you can spend your first semester exploring what those are and deciding what your interests are that you want to be deeply engaged in and what curiosity you want to follow up on. And so give yourself that time. And so with that, I would like to introduce Caroline McSwain, who can tell us a little bit about herself and her voyage into research.
Hi guys, my name is Caroline. I am a current sophomore, so class of 2028. My major is chemistry with a concentration in biology. I initially tried to do some research my second semester of my freshman year. I cold emailed maybe three or four professors. And one of them recommended that I looked into the summer fellowships that the Undergraduate Research Support Office offers. So I ended up doing one of those programs that was designed for students who didn't have a lot of research experience coming in. It was super. I basically spent the summer working in a lab from it was like 8 a.m. to like 5 p.m. And then I continued to work in the lab my sophomore year. I'm going to again next year. Lab researches malaria. Research project is looking at long non-coding RNA and seeing different types of long RNA affect the parasite that causes malaria's growth in the first 48 hours of malaria. So when it's still developing in your liver.
Thank you, Caroline and Anna, for sharing your experiences. I am happy to open it up to Q&A. It looks like there are some questions in the chat. QR code should take you to our link tree that will get you to our website. You can subscribe to our listserv. You should do that once you have a Duke email address. Us on social media, on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram. You can learn more about the research resources at Duke through those things. Is there a senior thesis required to graduate? No, you do not have to do a senior thesis in any discipline in order to graduate from Duke. It is not a requirement. Completing one does allow you to be eligible for graduation with distinction if that is of interest to you. Anna or Caroline, have either of you considered doing a senior thesis or thought about that? Do you want to talk a little for a minute about what you know
Yeah,
about it?
I know a lot of seniors choose to do it. I think you can graduate with distinction if you do one. My understanding is a lot of the different majors will have courses you can take during your senior year to help guide you in writing your senior thesis. So there's a lot of help if you want to do one with the process of writing your own thesis, coming up with a topic. I know people's research mentors are also super helpful in the process and offer a lot of guidance. I know some of the upperclassmen in my lab are planning to write one this upcoming semester.
Two seniors in my lab who already graduated with distinction and they defended their theses. But I think it's a really great opportunity to showcase your research. And it's also kind of the experience of writing a thesis. I think it's a very high level of scientific writing that a lot of people aren't used to. That for the biology department, they have you take a class that kind of takes you through with how to write it. And you take it with all the other people who are also looking to graduate with distinction. You're all in it together. What I also know is that the undergraduate research, I think, support office, they offer a fellowship where you can do research over the summer because a lot of the times people will have produced a lot of data that they can then go talk about in their thesis. And that's like really important because then you spend a lot of your senior year kind of writing up and preparing to defend. So, yeah.
All right, so it looks like we have a question. Is it too late for incoming freshmen to apply for summer research projects or internships at Duke? So typically, incoming students are not eligible for the programming that my office offers or the funding that my office offers, for example, until you are matriculating at Duke in the fall. It is not necessary as an incoming freshman for you to identify a research opportunity and begin engaging before you arrive. I think Anna mentioned Muser, Caroline may have as well. So Muser is an online tool where faculty can post research projects and students can apply to those research projects. But there are a few things that I want everyone to understand. One is just because a faculty mentor doesn't post a project on Muser does not mean that they are not willing to host an undergraduate in their research group. There are plenty of faculty that don't post on Muser because they know they have students that are interested that are going to reach out to them directly. So again, just because someone doesn't post doesn't mean they're not open to having an undergraduate in the lab. And also, this only happens in what are called rounds. And so there are specific times where faculty can post projects and students can apply to projects. This happens 4 or 5 times throughout the academic year. Students will be able to apply to projects in the fall when the fall round opens. My experience in talking to students over and over again is that many incoming students come into Duke and apply to a project on Muser and then get discouraged because they aren't accepted. So Anna talked about how she didn't get accepted to any of the research projects she applied to through Muser in her fall semester. You're competing with students who have been here for 2 to 6 semesters longer than you, and therefore have more coursework and more knowledge and skills under their belt. And so I see first year students in the fall be selected for a Muser project. It can happen. I don't want students to get discouraged if they are not able to get a Muser project.
Yeah, I would like to add to that actually. What I realized really fast is that we as college students we procrastinate. So you can see how many people apply before you, and usually it'd be like four. And then the deadline will, and then ultimately 30 people will apply for one position. And everyone who applies through, I'd say, is or have previous research experience or have something that they're super passionate or super related to the topic. It's highly competitive to apply through Muser. I'd highly recommend cold emailing because cold emailing kind of allows you to pick which projects you like from the PI or in the labs that we have around campus, do what you're interested in. I think from my friends that are doing research, most of them cold email. I only know one who went through Muser. The benefits of Muser are that the labs will usually list out what they want from the students. So they'll sometimes there's listing for payment. I think those are kind of the benefits, but I do think from my experiments, you can't go wrong with just cold emailing, although it is a little more work.
I am going to answer the question. Can you comment on research opportunities that are specific to Pratt students? So, just like in Trinity, there are Pratt faculty that are engaged in research in all of the different engineering disciplines. Advice would be to go to the department website for whichever type of engineering you're most interested in. So, if it's ECE, go to the ECE website, for example. And typically, there is a tab at the top that says research, and you can sort of explore the different research, or it says people, and you can click on that and you'll see faculty. Typically, faculty profiles on the department websites that outline the faculty's research interests. And so, similar to the things that Anna has talked about, you can cold email faculty if you are interested in engaging in their research and someone is doing research of interest. Is certainly an option. Are there any exceptions or special circumstances that allow you to join Bass Connections projects as an incoming freshman on top of the Bass Connections affiliated courses? If I recall, so Bass Connections is its own operation and office separate from mine. If I recall, and the students may remember no better than me, applications for Bass Connections teams submitted in January-ish, matches are made. On occasion, there are some spots that remain, and therefore they may open applications in the fall for any spots that remain on teams. Anna or Caroline, do you happen to know if that is accurate or true?
Yeah, so I'm actually did apply for a bass this year. I did apply around February, I think, around similar time. And everyone who's in the bass teams knows that they're in the bass teams right now and that they've already been given a code to register for a class for when the meetings will be held. I do know that a lot of times once you get to campus, you'll talk with upperclassmen who are in some really cool basses, and they'll be like, "Oh, there are spots available." So I say that like it never hurts to reach out to the person leading the bass and say, "Hey, like I'm really interested in your project. Is there a chance I could help out or join?" I have heard of people get in that way. So yeah.
All right. Well, the students get a chance to talk to their advisors during the summer to help them with their research options, or should they contact the Research Support Center? So, advising is separate from the Undergraduate Research Support Office. I will say my office doesn't necessarily help you to identify a specific research opportunity or guide you in a specific way, other than some of the workshops and things that we do more broadly. A lot of the information and a lot of the ways that I would advise students to find research experiences are the same, right, for every student. And so rather than meeting with students individually, I tend to do the broader info sessions. So we will have those info sessions in the fall. Advisors that you work with over the summer to choose your fall courses may have some advice for you. You can certainly ask them. Piece of advice would be to attend the workshops and take advantage of the resources and info sessions and things like that that we will be distributing during the fall semester. Is research structured like a class, or is it something students have to allocate their individual time for, like an extracurricular? So some students will enroll in independent study as a course and therefore earn course credit for engaging in research. Other times, students will do it as an extracurricular, essentially, or as a wage earning job. Different ways for you to be recognized for engaging in that research. Go ahead, Caroline.
Depends. So this year I'm doing it an extracurricular between my classes, but in the upcoming year I'm going to take it for course credit. And the only difference from my understanding is the amount of hours you spend in there. So especially in the beginning, I think it's hard to spend 10 hours a week in a lab versus when you're an upperclassman and you have less the major requirements or pre-med requirements that takes up time. But yeah, I feel like everyone does it slightly differently. There's no end all be all with the amount of time you spend in your lab.
Yeah, so I started off in my lab volunteering and I would just text my mentor when I would show up. And I think that's how I scheduled and when I went in and when I didn't. It was really beneficial for me because when I realized I do really need to take some time to do my exam or study for my exam, then they're always really understanding and so that's really nice. Semester I'm taking up independent study. I am getting course credit, like Dr. Harrell said. You do an assignment in order to get the credit, but I still spend the same number of hours as I did when I was volunteering course credit in lab now. But also, I've structured my lab usually takes a lot of time. Mentors aren't working 7 p.m. and past, right? Because they also have lives. So I would say make some time in your schedule to be free if you know you absolutely want to do research. And a lot of times your mentor will help with your schedule. That can be very helpful.
Okay, so I'm going to answer the question. Undergraduates usually work in one lab or two labs. So I will be honest and say I have a pretty strong opinion about this that may or may not align with what students actually practice. Advice is that you're in one lab And that's because that doesn't mean you shouldn't do other labs over the summer or in other years or whatever, but at any one given time, one lab, one research project, because I believe that it is most beneficial for you to engage in a research project deeply rather than in multiple research projects on the surface level because you don't have the time to engage deeply if you're splitting your time. But if you're focused in one lab and one research project, you can engage more deeply and therefore make more progress and potentially get enough data to present at a research conference or even contribute to a publication. But that's harder to do if you're splitting your time between labs. Unusual for students to switch labs, for example, if it is not going well in a particular lab, it's not a good fit, their interest doesn't fit their personality, whatever the issue may be. Students do change labs. I also see students go to other institutions over the summer to do research in other places to just gain a different perspective, something students do as well. If a student wants to do research with a professor and Cole's emailed several, what are next steps after someone agrees to be a mentor, both for new projects and joining ones that are already ongoing? Anna or Caroline, do you want to take this or do you want me to answer?
So usually if you cold email a professor and they email you back, they're going to arrange a time to have a meeting. Might also give you a tour of the lab. That's what I got after I first met with my professor. And they will at that meeting kind of outline their expectations for when they want you to start in the lab. You'll get assigned a bench mentor. So that is a PhD student, or yeah, it's usually a PhD student who is working on something specific in the lab. So my lab works on malaria, but there's people who are looking at proteins versus looking at RNA. You'll get in contact with that person and they're going to arrange the schedule for when they want you to go in. And right in the beginning of the process, that's when you guys determine what's best for you. So if you're going to be in the lab a lot versus if your schedule's really busy, they want you to wait a little bit. So my lab had a lot of training that I had to do, like safety training, which meant they wanted me to wait until the end of the semester versus starting just right then because it was going to take too much time up front.
Yeah, I have some good experiences to speak on. So I did say that I applied to Muser, and then two of them reached out in interest, and one of them I met through Zoom. So they can usually talk to you through Zoom, explain their project, and you can ask them questions about their project to see if you're interested and about their expectations, their lab environment. The other one, I campuses aren't directly on campus, and this one was in downtown Durham. So as a freshman, I trekked from East to downtown Durham to their office, and they gave me a tour of their workplace. I met with the PI. I learned like what their project entailed. I think this is a really good place to emphasize like fit for labs. To certain labs, like you can tell these are the people you're going to be collaborating with, asking questions to. It should be like a conducive learning environment. And I remember this lab that I visited downtown. Well, one, the 12-minute walk. Maybe I don't want to do this every day and without a car. And if it rains, then that wouldn't be great. So that was like number one. I wanted someone who could offer 14 hours to lab a week. And I was like, I don't know if this is what I personally want. I didn't end up doing that. And then with my current lab, I met with my mentor in person and he gave me a tour of the laboratory. And I think I just remember one of these key conversations we had was he asked me, "Oh, are you interested in neuroimmunology?" And I was honest for once and I said, "No, I just wanted to do immunology research." He was like, "Oh, good. I do absolutely nothing related to neuroimmunology." There was another person who was interested in the lab at the time and they had to end up picking between the two and I ended up getting picked. So I think honesty um definitely like shines when you're interested in what you're interested in. So yeah.
Okay, I've been trying to field answers to questions that I am seeing coming in. Um, if I research in summer, is campus still open or do I need to find a renter? If I'm understanding, you're asking if you need if you can live on campus or if you need to find housing. So if you are just staying on campus and want to do research, well, Anna and Caroline may be better positioned to answer this than I am. If you're enrolled in courses, you have access to housing, of course, over the summer. If you are not enrolled in courses, I don't know. Do you?
So I know when I did a program that was run through Duke, I lived on campus. And I know there's a lot of students who, if their program is affiliated with Duke and they're doing research, often students might take a course at the same time. And so then they are living on campus. I do know people who, if they couldn't get the funding that's completely Duke affiliated, and they still want to live in the area, um, they'll just rent a place. I think sometimes it's actually ends up being a little cheaper. Um, but I knew someone in my lab who did that versus I would like walk in from lab every day. There's a good amount of people that stay on campus during the summers, like doing research. There's a lot of people their sophomore year or junior year who do that.
Yeah, so I'm actually subletting this summer off campus, and I kind of found my place by asking the people around me. And I think sororities typically people are always looking to like sublet if they're not staying the summer at Duke. But what I do know is I'm not super sure if you're guaranteed housing unless you're either taking classes at Duke or if you're part of a program. I do know that international students are guaranteed summer housing, um, but that is the depths of my knowledge for that.
Okay, it looks like we have a couple of other questions. Will this be recorded and sent out? To my knowledge, this is not being recorded. Um, if a student wants to do research with a professor and cold email several, what are the next steps after someone agrees to be a mentor, both for new projects and joining ones that are already ongoing? Um, so, I mean, in my experience, what I see are that becomes what it comes down to is between the lab or the mentor and the student as to what that arrangement looks like, whether or not the student will get paid or whether or not the student will enroll in a course and that sort of thing is kind of determined by the mentor and the mentee. And I think it also depends a little bit on the timing of it. So obviously, if you cold email a professor and join their research group in October, you're not going to be able to enroll in a class at that point. I think it for the most part it is up to the student and the mentor to decide what that looks like. Those are the only those are the rest of the questions. I don't see any other questions. Um, so I think, one of the things that I will again emphasize is that it is not necessary for you to come into Duke with research experience already and to give yourself some time to make the transition to Duke successfully and do some exploration and figure out what you're really curious about and what you're really excited about. There are lots of different research opportunities in terms of topics um, across disciplines. And yeah, different ways you can get credit for it through coursework or through getting paid. Um, but I don't know if Anna or Caroline have any final parting words of wisdom.
Um, yeah, I would definitely say enjoy like your first semester and this summer before you come. There's so many different ways to get involved with research on campus, and there's so many different timelines and like experiences. I know people who are starting labs their junior year, and that's like completely normal. I know Anna and I both had similar experiences in which we really thought we had to get started like the second we got to campus, or we were like screwed. And it ended up being completely fine. We both actually ended up in labs earlier than most people. Um, yeah, so like it's gonna be it all works out. We go to a school with so many different research opportunities. If you are really passionate and you want to do research, you will be able to do research while you're here.
Yeah, I think I just want to add to that. If you want to do research, you're going to get research. There's so many opportunities here. I know my roommate, she switched through 4 different labs. It wasn't her, it was just and stuff. Your summer between senior year of high school and freshman year because it's probably the last time that you can really have fun, travel, spend time with friends and your high school friends. I think whatever you do before college is great for your learning and everything, but once you get to college, the experiences you have at college are what really matter for the resume and what you see into the future. So yeah.
All right, well, thank you to everyone for joining us tonight, and we hope to see you at Duke in the fall. Good night, everyone.